All right, we ready to go?
Good stuff.
I am. Yeah, I was waiting on her. Wait, what? Okay.
We can start.
Okay. All right, it is 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. If we can get a roll call.
Matt.
Here.
Derek.
Here.
Neil here. Jared.
Here.
Lane.
Here. All right, if you'll stand and join us for the flag salute and prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if you bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, seeking your wisdom and guidance. Thank you also for the opportunity to serve our students, family, and community. Please grant us clear minds, kind hearts, and the unity of purpose as we make decisions that will shape the future of our schools. Help us to listen with compassion, speak with grace, and act with integrity. May everything we do bring honor to you and benefit those entrusted to our care. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
All right, moving on to item 2, public participation.
We have two.
Okay.
First one is
All right. Members of the public shall be allowed to attend all meetings of the Board of Education. In addition, the Board of Education will have an item on every regular board meeting agenda that affords citizens the right to speak. Any individual wishing to address the board shall sign in with the board minutes clerk prior to the start of the meeting. The president of the board will then acknowledge only those individuals whose names are listed to address the board. The board will set a maximum time of 21 minutes at each regular meeting for public comment. Those wishing to speak will be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be allowed to address the board in the order they signed in with the board minutes clerk. The president of the board may extend the time limits if necessary. So our first one tonight is Simone Johnson. And you can step right up there to the mic, and it should be, if it's not on, just push the button until the, and I'll have a timer right here, and I'll set it for 3 minutes. When you hear the timer, just.
I was here because there's a Speed Fest team going to OSU, and you're supposed to be approving like a fundraiser, and I was told to be here by the sponsor, who's a teacher at Piedmont, because she can't be here tonight to answer any questions about the event.
okay.
Great. Thank you.
There are no questions.
No, not yet. That was short. All right. Moving on to Denise Crosswhite-Hayter. Oh,
Okay.
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 All right.
There we go.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
All right. Moving on to item 3, presentations, school improvement presentations for October of 2025.
Should take it.
Okay, Mr. Melton and I are excited to present to you tonight our school improvement plans along with the principals of each of our buildings. In front of you, you should have a booklet that is a binder of our presentations. In the beginning, you'll see that in the introduction that we're going to be covering our OSTP results, our college and career readiness assessments, as well as the ACT. And then the next page gives you some often used acronyms that you will hear tonight as our principals share with you. And so this will be just a reference for you as we go through. We will start with, at the back of your binder too, I want you to know that you have a literacy continuum just for your reference as our early childhood and elementary principals share with you tonight. But as we start by looking at the 24-25 multi-district test scores, you can see the way our Piedmont students scored in comparison to their grade level peers in the metro area. We were pleased to see some improvement in some of these areas, and as you can see, we are still scoring at the top of the metro area, and so our students are doing well. We have lots of room for improvement, but we're making good progress as well. Some of the things to note is that last year we added new math curriculum across the district, and so that has definitely had an impact on our scores. We've had a real focus on math fluency and number sense across our elementaries all the way up through intermediate school. And then our teachers have really focused on small group instruction, flexible groups, and sharing students among one another with targeted skill interventions. And so that has been something that the students individually have really benefited from as the teachers are looking at that data and sharing students. Our 5th grade math, ELA, and science scores are here on this screen, as well as 6th grade math and ELA. These are full academic year students, and these are students that represent scoring advanced or proficient as you're looking through those scores. One of the things that we want to note on our intermediate school is that they have really worked hard, as has our district, but the intermediate has really put a big focus on growing their professional learning communities, their PLCs. The teachers are working together to really focus on essential standards, unpack those standards, intervene on those standards. And then last year, we also added new ELA curriculum in our 6th grade as well. And so you can see some good progress in those grade levels.
Okay, looking at, secondary, one of the things that I think is really important to look at, with our 7th grade and 8th grade ELA, we're leading the pack, in comparison with districts. And, one of the things that Lisa mentioned is the commitment that you guys had with curriculum. We were able to gain curriculum in both of those areas, and I think we're beginning to see that reward paying off. And if you remember, maybe just a few years ago when we first came in, we talked a lot about open resources. So that has allowed us to really get some structure with that curriculum, and I think we're seeing the benefits of that. 7th grade and 8th grade math, we're in the hunt, but we're trailing Deer Creek there. So, we've got some room for growth, for sure. And then when you look at 8th grade science on the far right, we're neck and neck with Deer Creek. And, one of the things that I think about that, again, comes back to you guys, the lab remodels that we've been able to do really brought that middle school science up to date. So there's going to be some areas that they can really do some hands-on discovery learning and some lab work. So I think that will definitely, we'll reap the rewards of that in the future. Looking at, our, CCRAs with science and history, start with the ACT at the bottom. It's just right there. We're in the hunt. We're behind Deer Creek and behind Edmond. And I know, Scott will go over some of the goals that we have for the high school, but we're gonna target that 20, and we're gonna see if we can hit that. So that'll be our goal when we talk about the ACT spring composite that we take. And when you look at history, we dipped a little bit. We dropped a few points. And, when you look at science, we actually had, just a 3% gain. So we've got some areas that we're going to hit on, and we'll look to strengthen up in some of those spots. Yes.
On the 5th grade, 6th grade math, 7th, 8th grade math.
Yes.
So on all those, Deer Creek is significantly higher than most schools. We're right there, but it almost looks like an outlier in some of those Deer Creek. Especially on the 7th grade, 8th grade math. Is there any effort to reach out to those departments, see what they may be doing? Thing like that.
I can speak to that. Mrs. Davis belongs in a consortium of other curriculum specialists across our district, and that is a constant conversation. Just as we have other schools come and visit our district to see some of the things that are great going on, we also are always eager to go visit another district and see what do you guys have going on that could really benefit our kiddos too.
I figured that was the case. That's a 7th, 8th grade math, that's a significant outlier.
Right.
Deer Creek compared to
Well, it's a great tool, Lane, right? I mean, if we've got relationships, which we do, and we see what they're doing well, we have those partnerships. So I do know that we are in conversation with curriculum and all of those things to figure out, hey, why should we try to reinvent the wheel? Let's figure out what you're doing well and see what we can do to do the same. Right. Right. So, and another thing I just want to say, looking, through all of this, with some of the commitment you've had, with some of the solution tree, the PLCs, the RTI, Erin has really implemented, the reading success, and she's got this year going with the math success. So those trainings that you guys have committed to, we're going to see the rewards of those. So thank you for that commitment with that.
Next up, we like to look at data in a variety of ways and from different perspectives. And so this is the same data as cohort data, where you can follow the colors and kind of track the same group of students and how they're making progress or where those challenges are. You'll notice that the 23-24 scores are grayed out. And that is because those scores were skewed last year and those numbers were inflated. And so for us, we've really tried to go back to the 22-23 scores and compare where are we in regards to that. As we look across those scores, though, we're looking for how do we support all the way down to the specific teacher in each grade level. And so that's one of the things the principals have spent a significant amount of time doing, is really digging deep into that data to know who is it that needs help and in what areas, and then getting in there alongside them and providing that support. And that happens through, like Mark said, the professional development, the PLC process, the RTI process, just our teachers getting to have a front row seat to, okay, here's the data now. How do I read it and what do I do about it? How do I really meet a student where they are and improve those outcomes? And how do I work with my teammates to make progress for kids and to really be strategic in how I'm using the time in the classroom and I'm using that intervention opportunity with students? So the principals are excited to share with you some of the things they're doing in their own buildings for that. But I think it's important to note that especially as we look at that cohort data and we start to see trends across a grade level, or we start looking at specific instructional areas, then we start finding ways to support those teachers where they are, whether that means they need professional development, how we can support their collaboration and the process and all of that.
And I would say one of the things that kind of sticks out to me in terms of, the OSTP scores, when you look at that cohort data from 6th grade and you look at that 22-23, even though we've made strides and we positively impacted our score this year, compared, we still have, areas to make up when you look at that, cohort from 6th grade to 8th grade in both math and ELA. So, we'll be focusing some targets to accomplish those. And I think it's me. Then just looking at historical data, kind of where we've been with our science tests. And another thing, I want you guys to realize that, that science test that those juniors take in their junior year, half of that test is made of physical science and chemistry, and the other half is biological life science. So we're in our 2nd year of offering physical science. So that group, if they took that as a freshman, then they will be sophomores this year. So we are continuing to offer and expand those sections so our kids will be better prepared. Like I said, with history, we had a little bit of a dip, and we'll be, focusing on some of those targets to gain those points back and, accomplish those goals. And then with ACT, you see we've kind of stayed in the 19s. We are looking at the comparative data, a little behind Deer Creek, a little behind Edmond, but we're going to shoot to hit that 20 this year.
Okay, and next up, we have the next phase of our presentations, which are our site principals coming up and sharing with you their goals from last year and the progress they made towards those, and then what their goals will be for this year. Jenny Jewell with ECC.
Hello, my name's Jenny Jewell. I'm the new principal at the ECC. And so what we did is I looked at our goal, and so by the end of the year, 80% of kindergarten students will accurately articulate 21 consonant sounds. That was last year's goal, and we achieved that goal at 86.1%. And so going into this year, I know kind of looking at years past, they were at 90% before, so I know we can achieve that goal. So that's what we're putting our goal at, is that we're going to have 90% of our kindergarten students will accurately articulate all their 20 sounds. And how we're going to do that in our action plan is we are going to make sure that our students are getting targeted support through daily literacy activities and small group instruction. And they're also going to be progress monitored using their individual consonant sound checklist. And we will be looking at that data monthly in what's called our weekly TCMs. And so they will be looking at that and then looking at different ways that they can engage our students so that they can get those letter sounds. And then for our other SMART goal, looking at our math, is we're going to have by the end of the school year, 90% of our kindergarten students will recognize and correctly identify our numerals 0 through 20. And again, we're going to go through those foundational skills. We're going to be looking at different ways to teach in small groups, and then we're going to be meeting on that in our weekly TCMs and our data team meetings. All right, I'm going to give it over to Nora.
Good evening, I'm Brandy Skakowski. I'm the principal at Northwood Elementary. And so this was one of our goals from last year. We're very excited. We worked really, really hard on this one. This was based on our iStation, which is a screener for us. It was last year. We did pair with Amera this year. But our iStation Ability Index is what we looked at. So we looked at from our September, December, and then our May ability goals. And then we said our goal was to increase by 5%. So you see that we did a great job, especially in kindergarten, but we did achieve that in all of our grade levels. So we were very excited about that. And then another of our goals, we were very close on these goals, but this was for our math reflex. This is more of a fluency for math, but it's 2nd through 4th grade. And we said that our goal was 90% of students would achieve mastery. And so we were able to do that. And we've already started off with a great start this year. We do a lot of recognitions. We recognize our students who have received their certificates for reflex math and try to do a lot of daily incentives of beat the goal or beat the principal's goal or whatever it is. And so that definitely kind of gives the students something to kind of work towards. And we found that that was very successful last year. So that brings us to this year. And so we looked back at our OSTP scores from 3rd grade and 4th grade for ELA and math, and we decided that this year we want our students to increase their percentage of 3rd and 4th graders scoring proficient or advanced, and we want to increase it by 8%, because you can look at our 23 data, the very first blue bar up there, that kind of shows you where we were and then how we compared in 25, and we were able to go up on everything except for our 3rd grade math, and then everything else, though, we said we want to stretch it by 8%. But we need to explain how we're going to do that. So our targeted action plan, one thing that we want to make sure to do is, of course, at the kindergarten level, pre-K as well, it's our foundational years and skills. So we want to make sure that all of our students have a great foundation, because that is what will help us in 3rd and 4th grade ELA and math scores and forever on. So in kindergarten, we are saying our goal is that 90% of students will identify letter names and sounds. And then in 1st grade, 90% of our students will master the CVCE word skills based on the literacy continuum. And like Mrs. Campbell said, that is at the back of the handout here. So that way you can kind of see what the literacy continuum looks like. So it is something that our teachers work with our students one-on-one just to make sure that they've mastered those skills. And then in 2nd grade, we want 90% of our students to have 100% completed the literacy continuum. Again, if that is a goal that all of our students can complete, then that will be a great foundation for all of our students to continue on and their reading skills. And then 3rd and 4th grade, we want 85% of our students to identify the main idea and supporting details of the grade level text, because what we found after looking at the state scores is that that was one area that we were lacking in 3rd and 4th grade. So we feel that if we can make sure that our students have 85% of those students have mastered that, then we should be able to meet our 8% growth in our 3rd and 4th grade ELA. And then we also have our math. Number sense is so important. It gives the students confidence. It helps them better understand the numbers, how to manipulate the numbers. And what we have kind of talked about a lot is that number sense is the backbone of learning math in general. And if they can have that, then they will have strong skills and they can build on that and give them a lot more confidence. So we want 85% of our students mastering their number sense for their grade level by the end of the year. And we feel that with all of these goals together, we should be able to increase our scores by the 8% in the ELA and the math for next year. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Tyler Bodell, I'm the proud principal of Piedmont Elementary. All right, so we've got our goal one from last year was at least 90% of our students showed mastery through their math fluency facts as measured through reflex math. And we did not quite meet our goal, and one of the things that we tried to do was set a lofty goal for our students to be able to achieve, and we came close, and we did take a look at why we didn't meet our goal in our TCMs, which is our grade level meetings that we have every week. And it really came down to some buy-in from our staff and taking ownership. So what you'll find is when we get into our this year's goals, you're going to find ownership from each grade level on how we're going to show improvement and growth in each of the goals that we have set. Goal number 2, we wanted to show 5% growth in our vocabulary scores. We really focused on vocabulary because number 1, it's a pretty large section of the score in the state test. But number 2, what we find is students that show improvement in vocabulary typically have a higher growth in their student achievement. And what we found was in iStation, we had an average of 12% growth across the grade levels. We had the growth, but then when we went to the state test, we had a lower percentage of students that performed proficient or advanced. So in 3rd grade, we had 6% of the students proficient or advanced, but we had over 60 kids that were approaching, which means they were just below the advanced. And so we showed growth, but we found that our students were maybe were still performing below grade level as measured by the state test. So our SMART goal for the 25-26 school year, we would like to show improvement in student performance levels in ELA and math as measured by the OSTP assessments. And so we've set some very lofty goals in each grade. Our 3rd grade scores were significantly lower than what we had kind of hoped for. And one of the things that we're doing is we really revamped how we're working together as a team in our 3rd and 4th grade to make sure that we're meeting the needs of each of our kids. And so these are lofty goals, but we really do think that with the steps we put in place to support our kids and support our teachers to make sure we can meet those goals. So our targeted action plan for this year, in kindergarten, which is new for us to have kindergarten, we have, it's super exciting to have these little mini Wildcats in our school this year with our pre-K and kinder. We wanted 90% of our students to leave kindergarten being able to identify their letter names and sounds. In 1st grade, we wanted 80% of our students will master their CVCE words, which are on that literacy continuum at the back of your packet. And because we know that if they have mastered their CVCE words by the end of 1st grade, they are set up for success moving into 2nd grade. 85% of students will read, write, and understand numbers to 100 with accuracy. And so that number sense starts in 1st grade, that being able to identify the numbers and know how to read and write them sets them up to be successful as they're learning addition and subtraction in 2nd grade. In 2nd grade, their ELA percentage of 87% of our students will complete the literacy continuum. It is critical that our kids finish that continuum by the end of 2nd grade because that sets them up to be successful, because as you move into 3rd grade and 4th grade, you're moving into learning from reading instead of learning to read. And so if our kids can master their continuum before they get to 3rd grade, they are more successful going into third. And then second, third, and fourth grade math's goal is set using reflex math. And this is all about fact fluency. It's about their ability to just know how to solve the problem. And so we want 80% of our second graders to be able to master their addition and subtraction facts through 10 as measured through reflex math. One of the biggest challenges that second grade students have is being able to add and subtract with regrouping and without regrouping by the end of the year. And this goal will help make sure that our students are at a point where they can do that. Third grade, ELA, 80% of the students will encode grade level words, diphthong, schwa, silent letters, hard and soft C, and be able to, with accuracy as aligned to the Oklahoma academic standards. And so these goals, each of these grade level goals were set by our grade level teams. So I worked with them the first several weeks of school. We looked at last year's data. We looked at last year's state test scores as we had them come in, and we're able to set our goals based on that data.
Overweight, how are you going to get staff to buy in?
So really, some of the goals that we set last year, we really, we kind of set them and then brought them to the staff. This year, it was completely opposite. So we brought the data to our staff, and then we had them set the goals and take ownership, and then we created an action plan for each grade level to meet their goals. And so we've got that buy-in from our staff in that way. We've hired some really amazing people to fill the open spaces that we had in each grade level this year, and they've really come in with new ideas and with a kind of a fire under them to make sure that their kids are being successful. So I think with the combination of who we hired and just putting the ownership back on our teachers to be able to be successful with that, I think we're going to see that growth. Let me grab my slides. No, I'm not going to.
There you go, Tyler.
Okay. And then fourth grade, 85% of students will show mastery. This is going to be a very lofty goal, I think, for our fourth graders because of where they scored here at the end on the state test score at the end of last year. And so we took and broke down the blueprints for the state test tests to find out how we're teaching vocabulary and how it relates to how they're actually being assessed vocabulary. And so I think our approach to make sure that what we're asking our kids to do on their day-to-day assignments, their assessments that we do throughout the year, align with the rigor of which they're asked to do on the state test. Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Kara King, principal at Stone Ridge Elementary. This is a review of our goals from last year. So last year, we said that 75% of all students at Stone Ridge would be able to achieve mastery of their grade level vocabulary by the end of this school year. And we quickly realized when we went back to review that goal mid-year that we did not create a very good stretch goal, because as you can see, we surpassed that by a large amount on all grade levels. So each grade level reached at least 85% mastery or above, which was really great, but that just showed that we could have stretched our goal a little bit. So we intend to do that this year. Our second goal was that 85% of second through fourth grade students would master 100% of their grade level math fluency as measured through reflex, and we did achieve that goal as well. So we're very proud of both of those achievements. Our 2025-2026 goals are that we saw improvement in all areas of the OSTP test scores except for third grade ELA. As you can see with these graphs, our goal is that we would show 8% improvement in all areas. So third and fourth grade ELA and math, that our students would increase to proficient or advanced on those assessments through building our literacy outcomes and ensuring continued academic success. So how are we going to do that? Our targeted action plan is for ELA for first grade that 90% of our students will master their CVC E-word skills on the district literacy continuum. Second grade, that 90% of our students will complete the full district literacy continuum. And our first and second grade teams are working really hard right now, utilizing that literacy continuum and those targeted skills to flex their students and share their students. So one teacher will be teaching a specific skill, and as those students gain those skills, they'll move on to another skill with another teacher. So that's some really hard work that our teachers are doing right now to ensure that we meet those goals. For third and fourth grade, we have made a plan that 85% of students will show growth in the reading writing process, which is one of the bands on the OSTP test assessment. So that's another one of those where we showed an area of growth for Stone Ridge. Last year, we identified vocabulary as a targeted area, and we did show growth in that by utilizing that same goal for all grade levels. And so this year, we're going to focus on our reading writing process with an emphasis on comprehension, response to text, and written expression. For math, in first grade, 90% of students will read, write, and understand numbers to 100 with accuracy. That's kind of going back to that number sense, math fluency, targeting those early skills. For second grade, 90% of students will solve two-digit addition and subtraction problems with accuracy and fluency with and without regrouping. This was an area that we targeted based on some good vertical alignment that our teachers did during some professional development that we offered last year, where first and second grade teachers got together, talk about what gaps they were seeing, second and third, all the way up. And one area they identified in third grade was that second grade was moving on to multiplication and division after they got done with their addition and subtraction facts on reflex. And instead of doing that, they think it will be more beneficial to focus on that two-digit addition and subtraction with regrouping and without regrouping. So that's going to be our focus for second grade. And then for third and fourth grade, 85% of students will master grade level math fluency measured through reflex math and classroom assessments. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Hi, good evening. Excuse me. I'm Jennifer Warner. I'm the principal at the intermediate. This is my second year there. So we're going to talk about our goals from last school year. So our first goal was that we wanted student suspensions to decrease by 10% compared to the year before. We felt like this was really important, and I am happy to say that we did decrease. We went from 78 to 51, and we really felt like, looking back, the things that we did to improve student, decrease student suspensions, is that adding 2 counselors was huge. We had a 6th grade counselor and a 5th grade counselor, and it's been amazing to be able to have them go in and do small groups. They do guidance and really build relationships with the kids. Also, we have a discipline matrix that we use school-wide, and we also, school-wide expectations was huge. Everybody being on the same page, all the teachers and staff using common language was really, really helpful. And what we're really excited about is capturing kids' hearts. So we were trained at the beginning of the school year, and it has strengthened our relationships in our building school-wide. It's been wonderful. We had teachers that didn't know other teachers' names in the building. And so they really dug in and, excuse me, I'm so nervous, I don't know why. I'm like shaking. It's like, I know all of you. So we do good things. We have social contracts. We've just really built trust with each other. And building that trust really helps teachers dig in, and they can work with each other, and they can share their kids and share their the things that they're doing in their classrooms with one another. So thank you guys for allowing us to have this training. It's been really, really wonderful. And we're really excited to see where our school goes. So goal number 2 was by the end of the school year, the percentage of 5th grade students near, at, or achieving expectations on number and operations will increase by 10% through the OSTP. Unfortunately, we went down a little bit, but we are working on building that back up, and you'll see that in just a second. All right, so our SMART goals for this year. We are going to improve student performance in ELA, math, and science by increasing the percentage of 5th and 6th graders scoring a proficient or advanced. So as you can see on the slides, we've come up a little bit, down a little bit, but we're really focused on, like the other schools have said, small group interventions, flex groups, teachers sharing kids, which has really been great. And they're able to do that now because they're building relationships with each other. We're really focusing on the essential standards as well and the essential skills. So our plan, 75% of students will master identifying main ideas and key details in grade level text as measured by CFAs, which are common formative assessments that they do one to every 2 weeks. In math, same thing, 75% of students will master addition and subtraction of fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals as measured by their CFAs. And in sixth grade, same thing, 75% of students will master number sense with integers and rational numbers as measured by CFAs. And that is Piedmont Intermediate. I'm sorry, I don't know why I was so nervous in front of you tonight. Do you have any questions, please? Thanks, guys.
Good evening. I'm Erin Pruitt, the proud principal of the Middle School of Piedmont, and the best teenagers on the planet. You guys come hang out anytime you'd like. So let's take a little glance at some secondary. You have to remember that our goals last year for the middle school were based on the irregular scores that we had the previous year. I want you to know that this is my 8th year at the middle school. We were stagnant for so many years and trying to find reasons, trying to find the why. And a lot of the things that Mr. Melton, Mrs. Campbell have mentioned already about the adoption of curriculum and the ability to take that next step and everybody be teaching the same thing that is a vetted curriculum. And then a lot of the things that we implemented last year with our reading success class, with our with having our pause time, which is our intervention time that we have during our advisory time, our targeted interventions for students on specific essentials. Although we didn't meet our goal, we had growth. And that is a huge thing to celebrate at the middle school. We either were taking steps down or we were just staying level, and we had growth last year. And I know our goal was not met, but we are not stagnant any longer. So we had growth in that first goal there for our 7th grade students in the area for their reading and writing band. So we had a 7% growth in that, and we attribute that to a lot of the efforts that we did with our pause in our reading success class last year. We're no longer connected, so I'm just going to keep moving on. It didn't switch with me, but our second goal was in the area for our 8th grade students in the area of number sense and number operations. And again, our math scores were very stagnant for the entirety of my time at the middle school, and we saw a 7% increase, even though we didn't have the 10%. It's working. Oh, okay. Yeah. Even though we didn't have the 10%, we had a 7%, and that is something we're celebrating. Again, that percentage was against the 24-25 irregular test scores. So if you compare it to the 22-23, we had a significant growth in our building. So let's take a look at what we're wanting to do this year. We are wanting to increase our ELA test scores in both grade levels by 7%. And we have, as a district, adopted AMIRA, but we are using that at the middle school level to identify specific students that are in need of intervention. And we're using our pause time again with our specific ELA teachers that are targeting essentials. And then we are using our reading success class as well. You can see all of the data tracking areas that we will use this year to meet that goal. And then our second goal is that we will see a 5% increase in our math scores. And we have added this year a math success class that mirrors our reading success class. We're giving it a trial basis and we're just having one section of it right now. One of our 8th grade math teachers is able to do that during first hour while we have so many students that are involved in extracurricular activities during first hour sports. We're able to target a small group of students that either are in an off-season sport or in an elective, and we're able to pull those students and do targeted math skills during that first hour time. So we're excited to add that class. We also use our curriculum extension, which is called ALEX. Our students do a targeted practice on that once a week during their pause time, but they also use that as an extension of the instruction that is done on a daily basis in their math classes. That's a look at the middle school. Do you guys have any questions for me?
How is the AMIRA adjustment coming? Are students picking it up?
I will tell you the middle school students love it. So we were on a trend with iStation to where they were using it significantly at the elementary level, so much so that when you said the word iStation, it was like, ah, and they just wouldn't do it. And we weren't getting good readings from it because I think they were just exhausted from their time of doing it in the elementary years. The students loved AMIRA. They loved the spoken piece of it. It was quick, interactive, and I think it's more on their level, and I think we got more accurate readings.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, high school, let's go.
Good evening. I'm Scott Farley. I'm proud and blessed to be the principal at Piedmont High School. I want to go over last year's goals and what we're doing this year to improve. So goal number 1 last year was the ACT. We wanted to get to 20. We fell a little bit short. 19.2 was it, or 19.4 was our score. Kind of on the same level, but we do want to celebrate any growth. And so we were kind of, if you noticed, going down for a little while. And so we did change that momentum going back up on that. So didn't quite meet the 20 goal last year, but started moving in the right direction. Our second goal was around our U.S. history and science CCRAs. We wanted to hit the 70% mark in U.S. history and the 50% mark in science. A couple pretty lofty goals. Again, they're going to be skewed by the previous year's scores and such. So if you look at the previous year, it looks like a big growth in science and a big drop in U.S. history, but obviously you can see that the scores are a little bit skewed because of that from the previous year. But definitely want to celebrate that science score going up, and I'll talk to you in a moment about what we're doing to try to correct that U.S. history score and get it moving back in the right direction. All right, so the ACT, so there's a couple things about the ACT. So we want to hit that 20 mark again this year, so we're keeping our goal there. But we're really trying to educate our teachers on, like, how do we get there to that mark other than just teaching the curriculum, okay? And so science, math, and reading are our 3 big focus areas on that. And so what we're doing there is we are providing Cantrell and Waller bell ringers to our staff in all 3 of those areas. It's required for our 11th grade teachers 1 to 2 times a week. And then as we get closer to the ACT on April 7th, we will be doing boot camps. But the important part for our teachers and our students to know is that you just can't attack the ACT as it's the same for everybody. And if you use the same strategy for everyone, then it's not going to impact all of our students. So the way that we're doing that with our bell ringers, we'll have, like, I'll just take a math class, for example. So you will have 2 questions on the board for your bell ringers. if you scored an 18 or below on your pre-ACT, all right, then they will answer the one above. Now, we're not going about and broadcasting, hey, Mr. Melton, you scored an 18, the other person you scored higher than that. They'll know that through one-on-one conversations during our Wildcat Successes classes. So they'll be identified, hey, you're answering either A or you're answering B whenever it's Cantor Waller bell ringer time. And the reason that 18 and below answers this, 18 and above answers B, is because the strategies are different based on how you're scoring on the ACT. And so we're teaching our kids those strategies during Wildcat Success and during our math, our science, and our ELA classes. Okay, so that's kind of, and then in the spring, they will go through 1 day of each of those contents leading up to the ACT. All of our juniors will. We'll even bring the kids that are virtually off campus, and they're going to come into campus for those as well. Okay, so we want to, on our second goal, we want to catch up what we lost in U.S. history last year. So we want to, that 11% dip, we want to gain that back, and we want to add some growth with it to try to get to 12%. And then we are very close to that 50% mark in science. We're at 38%, so we feel like hitting that 10% this year will get us where we need to be. So a couple things, and I'm going to go to the board in a second to show you guys this, but also like our teachers have to know like what are we teaching to? What's going to be on that U.S. history CCRA? What's going to be on that science CCRA? And what we haven't been doing is we haven't been looking at the item specs. We haven't been looking at the blueprints. We've been teaching the entire curriculum, which is great. We want our kids to know a whole lot of stuff, right? But at the same time, if we're going to hit these goals, we don't have time in one school year to teach absolutely everything. So let me show you what's been happening at Piedmont High School. I love this stuff too, though. Here we go. All right, so in teaching, and these guys are already doing this great at the elementaries. We've got to bring it to the high school now. You've got a beginning and you've got an end. So we'll say this is a unit. Go back to your high school days. You took probably a 30 to 50 question test at the end of your unit, right? So what our teachers are doing, have been doing, is they're teaching straight through, might be a 2, might be a 3, heck, it could even be a 4-week period, and they're getting a big old assessment at the end, testing over everything. We've got to focus in closer than that at the high school. So here's what we're trying to do, all right? So we've got this unit, here's the beginning. We've got chunks of information now, all right? And if we wait to the end and then we just keep moving, we're not correcting the mistakes our kids are making before they get to the April test. And so what we are working on our teachers trying to accomplish is we're going to stop every so often, all right, on those smaller chunks of information, and we're going to check for the understanding. Did our kids get it that first time around? All right, and so this, if you dissect farther into this, this is where that magic happens. So this may be a 3, a 4, or 5 question, like mini quiz over here, right? And I can give that at the very end of the day in a 10-minute period. I don't have to take an entire class period to give a test, and then I'm going to sit and play crosswords or whatever else the rest of that period. We can use our time more wisely. So I give that mini session. All right, I noticed that 25% of my kids, man, they missed these 2 things. Before moving on to this next chunk of information, I'm going to fix that right then and there and try to get 5, 10% of those kids on that second round, that second day of teaching that content. So then we do this, we move on, and we do the same thing here. And in the end of that unit, we have less kids to intervene with. Whereas here, we're getting here, and we may be getting 75% because we have really great kids, really smart kids, but what about that 25%? So we're hoping by teaching this model school-wide, we can get here where 10% of kids needing intervention rather than 25% of kids. So that's the goals that's what we're trying to do to accomplish our goals. Algebra 1 team is killing it. English 1 team is killing it. Oklahoma history and world history team are buying into this. And so that's kind of how we're building this model in by using our faculty meetings to say, hey, talk to your team, talk to everyone else about what you're doing with those small tests, those interventions in the classroom along the way. Okay, Any questions?
This one might be for Mark. Are we seeing a increase in success with
It's been, it has been way better than I think any of us anticipated. You know, secondary wise, I think we knew that would probably be where the biggest battle was. But I think it's getting to the point now where even the kids appreciate the impact of what we're seeing. A lot more social, a lot more talking. Cafeteria's a little bit louder, but they're doing things that we all used to do. So it's been a very, very positive thing.
And we have a legislator in the room that was part of what helped us get that. So thank you, Denise.
Yeah, but you guys took the lead on that long before we did. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I think just a couple notes for me here, a couple things that stood out. You know, I think, Ms. Pruitt, you mentioned find the why. You know, it's so important for not just the kids to have a why, but for the teachers as well. If you have goals in front of you, I think just us as people in general, as humans, we're inherently driven by goals of some kind. And so having these present in the classroom and present in the meetings that you conduct are so important. And so that's, I think it's a big thing, and ultimately impacts our kids, because what we've noticed with Dr. Eichelberger's vision, with all of your work and support and input, is that a lot of this circles right back to focusing on relationships. And a lot of the PD in this district is relationship driven. And I think that's something that really makes Piedmont special, from what I'm hearing from staff, from what I'm hearing from kids, in particular. I'm just using my kid primarily as an example. But, you know, one of the things that's easy as we grow as a district, it's easy to slip through the cracks, kids and teachers alike. And I think as we focus on the relationships and you focus on the professional development, you will continue to see growth towards your goals. Even if you don't make them, you're still making progress. So just as somebody who worked in the district and somebody who has kids in the district and is serving on this board, definitely appreciate the great blend of strategies that include academics and relationships. So thank you. It's definitely noticed.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll just be the old guy on the board, right? This is the best packet I've ever seen put together in my 16, 17 years. It's good information. I love the scorecard, right? That's how that's how we see where we're at in the game. And you should be proud of how we're matching up against our peers, right? Take pride in that, but then we see opportunities, and I think you guys talked about those, and you see where they're at. It's refreshing to know that we have a game plan and that we're focused in. And hopefully in the elementary schools, I saw differences in the scores, right? And so hopefully at a higher level, yes, it's good to get the staff included, but you all as principals are figuring out what's working at your school, and you're sharing between the two. I know you are. And then I think it looks like we lose a lot of traction in 9th and 10th grade from where we stand from the 8th grade. And so hopefully we see that opportunity, like we're staying up with the big dogs, you know, in 7th, 8th, 6th elementary. And then it looks like when we hit the 11th grade, we lose traction. And so hopefully with the changes, sounds awesome. So looking forward to seeing the results. Good job though. This is good stuff.
Anybody else have anything? You may be surprised to learn that I have a few things to say. These guys, I told you early on that how we create a great district is hire and retain great people. And then once you get those people in service, you got to professionally develop them. We are to the point, we've got really strong administrators. They're working on creating a really strong teacher base, and we have to professionally develop those people. So we've got to get them on board with what we're doing, but we also have to then teach them how it is that they teach. These guys did not stop when they did something really, really good. They didn't go, now you got to look at this. This is an amazing stat. But there were some amazing stats that they went right over the top of that they grew significantly in an area and were leading the pack where they didn't. Last year, we showed you all the metro areas, and we were ahead in almost every area. We were ahead of the Deer Creek in most. I think it was. We were first or second in all 10 areas that it's significant work. These guys are doing really, really good work. You didn't hear Erin, you heard her say, we had this reading success. That is an incredible thing that we've probably had at least 5 districts come to us and say, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Brenda has been out in the world promoting that, doing presentations like at OSSBA on that, saying, this is what we're doing. What we're doing is the elementary model at middle school. You heard what Scott said a little bit earlier, where he said, they're already doing this. We got to bring it to, and I was a secondary guy, but I spent 15 years in elementary, and I can tell you, elementary knows what they're doing. They teach, assess, reteach. Teach, assess, reteach until you get them all, and you keep moving them forward all. And we don't do that in secondary. You're exactly right. 10th, 11th grade, we've got a whole lot of freedom, and in fact, we don't, until the 11th grade, we don't test those kids. Well, we're going to change that. We're going to have benchmarks. We're going to assess those kids more regularly on the things that they do. That number that Jennifer skipped over, Jennifer Warner, 34% reduction in suspensions, that's unheard of. That's unheard. They had nearly 900 kids over there, and she reduced the number of suspensions. That's relationships. That's relationship building. That's getting those teachers on board. That doesn't happen without teachers. Jennifer can't make that happen by herself. She can't make it happen with her 2 assistants. She can do it if she talks to those teachers and gets them on board with what we're trying to do. And they did it. When kids are in school, we can teach them. So every one of those people over there, even this ugly group in front, all of them, but those principals, I want you to just take a moment to say thank you for the work that you're doing, because they're doing good work. Thank you. That concludes my remarks.
And the other part, you've got, and I've jokingly said this before, if you've been in here and heard me, as a high school, as a secondary person myself, when you go to a teacher's meeting and use the word data, that's a 4-letter word. It's a curse word. And if you get secondary teachers to buy into it, which you have to have some data to make decisions from, then that's a baseline, and you're doing that. So that's noticed, and definitely it's going to make a huge difference. So keep it up. Yeah.
This whole thing just takes time. You don't turn a big ship around. We have 5,500 students now. We don't turn this thing in just one quick turn. It takes some time. It takes literal years, but we're making incremental growth. That's what you want. You don't want to see 25, 30% growth. All right, what were we doing last year? If we could get 25% growth and we didn't have it last year, so we're doing the right stuff. It takes time. It's a little bit like this, but it's like Erin said. I loved what Erin said. She said, we were stagnant for 10 years. The data will show you they were stagnant. They were doing the same thing. We're getting these kids from the elementary and the intermediate that know some stuff. They've got high test scores, and they come to the intermediate and they're like this. It's like we were doing something to keep them just like, we don't want you to get too smart. So they saw a breakthrough, and Lane, how hard it is with secondary teachers to get them there. And I was one, so I'm I'm raising my hand. They're independent contractors. They're the people that know what to do in that particular grade level and that particular math, reading, whatever. And so they know this is the thing that I know, and I'm going to do what I know. But you have to also do what we're all doing. It's a huge, to make this deal work, it's all of us doing the same thing. So good job, guys. Anything else?
Good stuff. All right. Let's move on to item 4, to business items.
Okay, so on item A, we're not tabling, we're just taking no action. The reason is Mark and Eddie went over to SNU. It was not as advertised, nothing to do with SNU. They had on their website, their place would hold 5,000. When they got there, it said 3,300. Well, we can't have 3,300. If we have 3,300, we got to tell parents, you can only have two people go for a kid. We're not doing that. We'll have it out in the pasture before we do that. So this is off the table. We're not going to do it there. You don't have to, all you have to do is just move on to the next item. Okay. And then we'll bring something hopefully next month that will accommodate us.
Okay. All right, moving on to item B, discuss and take possible action regarding fiscal year 26 Otis Elevator Maintenance Service Agreement, $650 per month from the general fund.
So you have at your tables the 1-year agreement. In what you got in your packet was a 5-year agreement. We don't do 5-year agreements. So where did you give it? It's in the drive now. So we have a 1-year agreement, which is what is legal. And we're recommending that you do the 1-year agreement. Remember, I told you that the Labor Department said we've been with the Labor Department. They're not new. The Labor Department's been out here for lots of years. They've never told us you got to have a service agreement with the people that put it in on every one of your elevators. We have 3 different elevators. If we had one elevator vendor, we'd have one contract, but we have 3. So we now have 3 times as much, and we're going to spend it. So we just have to do it. It's what they say. They shut down the elevator at the WAC, right?
So Otis is going to service all the different brands we have?
No, sir. Otis is going to serve the one at the WAC. Yep.
Only Otis put in the WAC, so they serve the WAC. The one at the other 2 are different. Go ahead.
I would challenge that, right? So you can use one elevator company for all the different brands. It didn't have to be brand specific.
So that is quite possible. However, when we got the WAC elevator, it's on a different suspension system than the other 2. And so Otis is qualified to service that one. TK and Kone could not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if it makes it easier, there are some out there that'll service all of them. So
Okay.
I can share that, but nothing
Sure.
wrong with Otis.
Share that with them. That'd be great whenever you have, if we can get one for the whole group, yes. This guy was not nice to Eddie, and Eddie's a very nice guy.
At least you don't have the elevator that used to be in the gymnasium at the middle school anymore. that was.
Who serviced that one?
We did. Lisa did. Lane did. Darnell did.
But I'm glad to see
Pruitt
we've
did.
got some kind of PM program for them that we didn't have before. So that's a good step, great step forward.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on item B?
I'll make a motion to approve fiscal year 26 Otis Elevator Maintenance Service Agreement for $650 per month from general fund.
All right, you have a motion by Neil, second by Matt. Can we get a vote?
Matt? Yes. Neil, yes. Derek?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, moving on to item C, discuss and take possible action regarding revised rates of pay, updated substitute rates.
So all this is, I'm gonna tell you what it is, and Patty is gonna correct me if I'm wrong. So we were doing $55 for non-certified subs. What we found is that we couldn't get people to do it for $55. When we've got paraprofessionals coming in, that's a hard job. They do some difficult stuff. So we are recommending that we raise that from 55 to 75, and we say non-certified and paras will pay $75. That's the recommendation. It's very competitive with other districts. 55 was not. Patty?
Any other questions or comments? I'll make a motion that we approve the revised rates of pay, updated substitute rates.
I'll second.
Motion by Lane, second by Jared. Can we get a vote?
Matt? Yes. Derek?
Yes.
Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, moving on to item D, discuss and take possible action regarding adoptions and revisions of the following district policies. 1, revision, DECA, FMLA. 2, a revision, FFA, Health Services and Communicable Diseases. 3, revision of FFA-CA, medication administering to students.
So all three of these are just to update so that we can pass accreditation and to meet the letter of the law. If you have specific questions about 1, 2, or 3 of those, I have ladies ready to answer your questions.
Questions or comments?
Very few red, very little red in here, so.
Make a motion to approve the adoption of the following policies. Health services, diseases, FFA-CA.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Derek, second by Neil. Can we get a vote?
Matt?
Yep.
Derek?
Yes.
Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Discuss and vote to approve all consent items. These items may be approved by one board motion unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. Any questions or comments on consent agenda?
What is 2026 Board of Education election resolution?
What number is that?
What is it?
What letter is that?
It's just, what we have to, right?
HI. It's I, letter I.
Aye. Oh, yeah, that's a requirement from the election board every year. So every year, one of you comes up for election. And it could be more than one if it falls the wrong way. But we have to do that resolution. We get we have to pay for that too. So that's what that is.
Any other questions, comments?
Make a motion to approve consent items.
I'll second. So motion by Derek, second by Lane. Can we get a vote?
Matt?
Yep.
Derek?
Yes.
Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, item 6, financial report.
Okay, we'll start with the monthly graphs. I'll do the normal stuff first, and then we'll go through the budget as well. So if you will go to the general fund, the total revenue down at the bottom is up 2.6 million. 2.5 of that is in the state category, so you'll see that reflected at the top in that 5.4 million. And then in building fund, the total revenue is up $10,000, and that is in the district column. That's the only revenue we have other than carryover right now. Child nutrition is up $4,988, and that is that amount in the district column as well. And then bond fund is up $20. We received a refund back on a fee that we paid during closing. So that's kind of an anomaly to see that in there, but that's what that is. And then sinking fund is at $34,000 in the district column as well. Questions about the graphs?
About where you thought we would be this time?
Yeah. Yep. We're pretty close to where we were last year
Okay.
at this time.
Great. Questions or comments? Jared?
Okay, we'll move on to the budget. If you'll flip to the second page, it just shows you the final totals from FY '25. So you can see our final revenue, including our fund balance, was $51.3 million. Our estimate of needs amount was $46.3 million, so you can tell we've over collected $4.9 million last year than what we were expected to. So that brings our final expenditures to $45 million with a fund balance of $6.2. And so taking that information, looking ahead for this year, our estimate of needs, projected revenue, including fund balance, is $48.1 million. We are projecting expenditures at 47.8 right now, knowing that we will have over collections again. The majority of the state section is estimated at 90% of our collections from last year because we don't have allocations for stuff like motor vehicle collections and things like gross production. So those are all estimated, so we expect that we'll receive at least 100% of what we did last year. I don't expect anything to go down. And the next page just gives you a more detailed view by function category, which is what we report to OCAS at the State Department every year. So that just gives you a comparison from what we actually spent last year to what we expect to spend this year. Again, those are just estimates. The most significant change will be in the 2600 section because we had to move expenses from building fund back to general fund since our fund balance went down in that fund this year. So that is up 1.7 million from last year is what we're estimating. Payroll right now is at 39.5 million, so that's sitting at 83% of our budget. Questions over any of the general fund? Okay, the next section.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seems like that number is usually higher, payroll.
We were 85% last year.
How much?
We were at 85% last year, so we are down a little, but there are still some open positions that we're hiring, so.
I can remember 90% in some
Yeah,
years.
so we've had 88 since I've been here, and some people, Edmund told me that they run at 93.
Wow, good job. It's a good job.
Yeah, so it's good.
Okay, the next section is the building fund. It is just the one page, so our projected revenue, including fund balance, is 5.9 million. So that is 3.7 million than our estimate of needs the previous year, which is why we had to move expenses. And so our projected expenditures are 4.6 million out of that fund. And then child nutrition is the last section. That projected revenue, which is our estimate of needs amount, is 2.8 million. It's up 24,000 from the previous year, and our projected expenditures are right at 2 million. Questions over the budget?
I think so. Anybody? All right, good stuff. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on to item 7, executive session. A vote to convene or not to convene into executive session for the purpose of discussing employment is listed on attachment C pursuant to 25 OS 307B1.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Derek, second by Jared. Can we get a vote?
Matt? Yes. Derek? Yes. Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, moving on to item 8, action item. Discuss and take possible action on employment as listed on attachment C. I'll make a motion that we approve employment of attachment C. Motion by Lane, second by Matt. Can we get a vote?
Matt? Yes. Derek? Yes. Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes. All right, moving on to item 9, new business.
No, sir.
No new business. All right, item 10, superintendent's report.
Okay. So I want to thank the principals again for their outstanding work, both just in the building and the school improvement presentations this evening. That's, you know, they put a lot of effort both into the presentations and into what they do every day. There's a lot of, being a principal, a head principal in a building is one of the most rewarding and one of the most hair-pulling things you'll ever do. And they have to balance people and kids and parents and all this stuff that we're talking about. So thank you all. Yep, just proud of them. We've made some great progress in the last 2 years, and we are set up to make more progress. I think that all the things we've really honed in, the professional development, we're mostly sticking with RTI, PLC, and capturing kids' hearts. And all of those things are going to drive us right where we want to be. So I think we're in really good shape. We're on track. All right, so I wanted to show you the enrollment from last year at this time to this year. If you see there, it was 5,411 in October of last year. It's 5,516, which is 105 more. Here's what's significant about that number. Everybody is down, like not up, like they're going the other direction. Mustang, Deer Creek. I saw Putnam City is down. There's a lot of reasons. You know, last year we were level. This year we're up 105 at the right time, this is when we do our accreditation report, and this is so of those 105, those kids are weighted, whatever they're weighted. They may be special ed. Matter of fact, Scott McCall told me that 20 of those kids are special ed kids. So they're going to have a significant, unless they're just speech only, they're going to have a significant weight. So they're going to wear one kid, if they count just one, is going to be $4,000. A kid that is free and reduced is another $1,000 or a 0.25 above that. So they're $5,000 instead of $4,000, and so on and so forth, all the way down the road. So this is a good thing for Piedmont because we were building new schools based on 225, and I didn't know where we were going to put those 500 kids while we were going, and by some stretch of the imagination, we stayed level. Last year, we're up 100 this year. We're going to open the intermediate next year, and we'll split that school that's almost 900 in half. So, and then the following year, we'll open up an elementary and redistrict, and that'll be the test of whether you want to stick around and be a board member.
Yeah, already hearing it.
Okay, so this is just this month to last month. We grew 19 kids from in the last month. Good time to bring in kids, but you look there at the intermediate. We're at 800 kids. That's a lot of kids for that building. We've got a ton. I am looking forward to not having all those portables out the back of that place, but we'll it'll be another rest of the school year. So in the meantime, you know, there are numbers. And any questions on that? Nope. Any questions? We're right where we want to be. By no intelligent effort of mine or anybody else's.
No. Anything else? All right, thank you. Moving on to item 11, adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Jared with the motion, Matt with the second. Can we get a vote?
Matt? Derek?
Yes.
Neil, yes. Jared?
Yes.
Lane, yes.
Yes. All right, time is 7:19. We are adjourned.